I'd like to call the Legislative Committee meeting of March 14th, 2023 to order. Let it be noted that Commissioner Snyder and Commissioner Hayes are here. We're all in attendance. And then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda, or do we have any changes on the agenda?
No changes.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any public comment?
Ms. Roden, do you have a public comment?
Hi, just a question, and I don't know if you'll be able to discuss it today or not, but an update on the Western Joshua Act that is pending in lieu of the endangered species designation, and if the CSD has a position or what you're doing, perhaps at the end there'll be time to do an update if that's possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any further public comments?
There's no one else here.
Okay. We move on to appointment of committee chair.
Yes, so you need to select who amongst you will be the chair of this committee for this term.
I'm up for it if you're not.
Doesn't matter to me.
Rock, paper, scissors, flip a coin.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I can be chair if that's the case.
Okay, all right.
So we'll nominate Commissioner Snyder, or Board Member Snyder. Do we have a motion for the acceptance of the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now we'll move on to updates from representatives.
Yeah, so none of our representatives join us today. We do, other than Congress and State Senate, Senator Rosa Lisi Ochoa Bogue, and of course Supervisor Cook, we do have a new Assembly representative. So before we used to be represented by both Mr. Tom Leckie and Mr. Smitty Smith, and now we are represented by Mr. Chris Holden, who resides out of Pasadena. And so all their staff have calendar invitations to this meeting. I'm sure there's good reason why they're not here.
Okay. Thank you for the update, Kim. Can we get a review of the March CSDA legislative brief?
Yeah, so the district is a member of California Special Districts Association, and they do issue a monthly brief on legislation that could affect special districts. This one I feel like we beat to death, the remote meetings laws. There is some new legislation introduced, AB 557, which is essentially AB 361. Only instead of certifying every 30 days, it's every 45 days. We'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, we still have traditional Brown Act and AB 2449 available in the event that a board member needs to attend remotely. And of course, none of this affects our remote public attendance. They can attend remotely no matter what. And then they're asking, CSDA is asking for feedback on AB 1484. It really doesn't affect us because we don't typically employ temporary or seasonal employees. And typically our temporary employees, we cycle through them before they become CalPERS eligible. It's kind of a non-issue. So it's a 6-month maximum. So I don't feel the need to provide feedback on it because we don't do it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Kim?
No.
All right.
There's a couple more. I don't know if you want to go through them or not. There's basically the alternative contracting bill, so I don't know if you're familiar with design build instead of, the construction procurement that we go through. They're making design build permanent, or proposing to make design build permanent rather than it sunsetting as it was set to. So that's nice. And then the next page, page 9, they're talking about the federal earmarks, and the district is working on a submittal. It'll be submitted next week. It's for a tank project. That's kind of it for the brief. So I don't know if you have any questions or if there's anything you want to recommend to the board to take action on. I didn't see anything at this time.
Okay. Nope, thank you very much. And we'll move on to item number 7, which is review of state ballot initiative number 21-0042A1.
Yeah, so Howard Jarvis has sponsored a ballot initiative, which has gathered the required number of signatures to be on the ballot in 2024. CSDA has taken a no position against this, but having read through it and met with Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association personally, I don't see why they're no on it. All it's doing is cleaning up some loopholes that have come down from the judicial side, where special taxes, depending on circumstances, and a whole bunch of other information, which would take an hour to explain, can go into effect with a simple majority. And so they're cleaning up that loophole. And, that's not a special tax. If they want to do a special tax, they should follow the special tax methodology. And then it doesn't affect the district in any other way. It retains the same thing, that we can't charge more than the cost of service if we're a special district. It still states we can't levy general taxes, which we never were able to anyway. So it really doesn't change anything for us. So I'm kind of curious if they were just lobbied by League of Cities or something to help them out here with some funding. So CSDA is requesting that we do a resolution opposed to it. I don't feel the need, since it doesn't actually affect us.
Has CSD, or anybody besides CSDA, done like a white paper or anything on it?
Yeah, I think League of Cities did. I haven't read it
League of
yet.
Cities. And-
But I went and met with actual Howard Jarvis staff, and we went through the entire text of the regulations. And there's nothing that would change for us, other than if we wanted to kind of go through the rigmarole to skirt the special tax requirements and use the judicial application of a simple majority. But it's so complex and convoluted, I don't know why we would ever do it. I think some school districts are taking advantage of it.
Okay.
So I don't know if the committee has any appetite to bring this before the board with a resolution or not. I don't see the need.
I think we'll take
And we
a,
still have a lot of time, so.
yeah, I was gonna say, we can take a little better look at it here and see if we can get some other white papers and then
Yeah.
bring it back, yeah.
I can
I'm good with
put that as an action item.
Yeah.
Yeah, once we get that information, we reviewed it, then we can bring it forward to the entire board for consideration of how they'd like to approach or support the CSDA if they'd like.
And League of California Cities did support it also? Did they support it?
League of California Cities is a no against this
They're a
because
no
they
against
can levy general taxes and, they're liking the loophole,
Okay,
so.
all right, thank you. Any further questions on that one?
No.
No. So we'll bring that back at a further meeting. And item number 8, review of committee roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, just let me know if you have any proposed changes to any of this.
I looked at it and I believe I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I reviewed it and I don't have anything to change.
So we'll move on to item 9, which is the staff report.
Yeah, so I can go ahead and address the Western Joshua Tree. So there's a Western Joshua Tree Protection Act that was added on as a trailer bill to the California state budget. And essentially, it looks very similar to a measure, or not a measure, to a bill that was put in by the solar companies that failed last go around. So it looks similar to that. Basically, it's creating a faster take permit process for a certain boundary, of which we are excluded. The boundary kind of does not include us. So we wouldn't be part of the expedited and less costly take permit process that this would allow. And so we have lots of thoughts on this. We are talking with our legislators in the state about it, that we think that the boundary should include us in the take permit process rather than us having to go through California Department of Fish and Wildlife, which we already currently are for the park project. But if we have any future projects, it would be nice to be part of the expedited, cheaper process. So I don't have the exact numbers, but it was significantly different price in each Joshua tree removal if you are within the boundary, which happens to follow along the corridor that was proposed by the solar companies.
And we're outside of that boundary, so
Yes.
it really doesn't matter.
Yep. Our boundaries are not within that, so. I'm not an expert on this, Cheryl, but if you have any questions, I can get them answered for you.
Yeah, well, I think the difference is 2,500 a tree versus 1,000 if you're in the boundary.
Yeah,
The boundary runs from the 15 out Barstow Victorville Way and cuts across the 18 to the 138. Boundary we would want for it to come down the 15 and along the 138 on both sides up to BLM land. So that was my look at it anyway. And I think it's an opportunity for us to work with Chris Holden's office here on attempting to get some changes there. He's the chair of appropriations. It's his last term. He's termed out after this term. And he's running for the 5th district in LA County. So there's a lot of people, not just entities like the CSD and other government entities that care about this, but there's a whole bunch of us that have Joshua trees that would like to be included in a cheaper rate, even though there is some language about kind of like acts of God if one falls down, because they do. So I just think it's an opportunity to work with his office.
yeah.
And I hope. And I think the MWA is hiring a lobbyist, it's my understanding. I don't know what exactly their focus is, and maybe it's to change the boundary as well.
Yeah, the last meeting I attended, it was mainly dealing with the boundary. Essentially, though, we have a position that it should not be listed as endangered because the science doesn't support it. It's not any time in the near future or even far future going to go extinct. And so we think that it's a waste of resources at the state level to protect something that doesn't need protecting, and when there was already local protections that existed. And so yeah, MWA is working on the boundary issue. We're working with Chris Holden's office already on this. He's going to come out and do a tour to April. Funny, he's suddenly interested in our community when I couldn't get a meeting before. Now that he's running for supervisor in the Los Angeles side of the high desert. So he's interested in our issues.
Yeah.
We're going to take him on a tour of the Joshua trees and the marijuana grows and kind of highlight some of high desert issues for which he's not familiar.
Yeah, as one, if I could comment, as one Joshua tree owner, I guess, if you can own them, I'm all for making it a heck of a lot easier than it is under the Endangered Recognition Act for homeowners to get rid of one that falls down. And the way it stands now is absurd.
Yeah.
And
the district's how many months into the take process right now?
Yeah.
And before, you didn't have to have so much clearance around them. So you didn't have to remove as many. You could integrate them into your design because it was okay if you would build up close to them or improve property next to them. Now you can't. I don't remember where they're landing at or what it looks like they're going to land at for clearances, but at one point it was 100 feet away from a Joshua tree, which means that you couldn't build anything where there's Joshua trees. And these things don't mind if you live right next to them. I used to have them in my planters. right next to my house.
Mine does in my first house.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thanks for that update, Kim.
Yep.
And it's good to hear that staff is all over it and working on it with Holden's office to see what we can do to.
Oh, yeah, I am a thorn in their side right now, because I was trying to get them to do a spot bill for us for something, and of course, they did not allocate one of their spot bills to us, so too bad.
Any other staff report items?
Nothing new, other than I'm gonna call our representatives and just make sure they still have us on their calendars.
Thank you very much for that. Committee comments? None from me. Mr.
I
Snyder?
look forward to being on this committee with you and chairing it. We'll go from there.
Sounds good. Review of action items for the prior meeting. Neither one of us were there. A current meeting.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get you the white paper on that ballot initiative, and then we'll bring it back in June, which should be fine, because there's still a lot of time.
Sounds good.
It looks like Peter Barnes is joining us. 1 minute. All right, well, I have nothing further.
Neither do I. Does Mr. Barnes have any comments?
Mr. Barnes, do you have a public comment? We're about to end the meeting.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
All right, with that being said, we will adjourn the legislative committee meeting of March 14th at 3:18. Thank you very much.
Thank you.